If you want to create a successful organization, you must create a rock solid organizational culture. But what exactly is organizational culture? We're going to dive into that. And in my opinion, it really comes down to just two things if you want to create a rock solid organizational culture. And that's you must develop people to think successful and act successful and produce successful results. And then you must reward success as well too publicly. So I always tell everybody, if you really want to create a good organizational culture, you counsel in private and you reward in public. And we're going to dive into that here within this episode right here. But what exactly is organizational culture? Well, organizational culture is, it's the atmosphere, it's the attitude, it's the actions, it's the people. It's all of those things that makes up exactly what an organization is. That's the culture. You see, if you create that environment, if you will, of people wanting to achieve success, people wanting to take action, people wanting to be there, people trusting one another, relying on one another, sharpening one another, lifting others up, that's a pretty good organizational culture right there. And I've been in some organizations over the years that, man, it really kind of starts with the leadership, but really it's all about people. And I've been in some organizations where the leadership just really tore down the people. They had great people within the company, but the leadership was so bad that it just tore those good people down. And then at the opposite end of that, we've had really bad people within an organization that brought great leaders, great stress, great heartache and struggle and hardship and this, that, and the other. And it's one of those things where I've experienced all of that. I've been a part of really great organizations, have been a part of really bad organizations, been around some really good people, been around some really bad people. And it's one of those things to where the only thing that I can control is really myself. I can control my attitude and I can control my actions. Within any organization, within any team, around any person, I've discovered that people are really just going to say and do whatever it is that they say and do. But if you create that culture, you create that environment that makes people want to be there, want to achieve success, then they will. Now, I'll share a quick story with you here. I remember years ago, I was a part of an organization that started off really well. I first got there, man, I was a rock star. I showed up, everybody was excited to see me. I got my team, met the people that I was in charge of, and we hit the ground running. We was laughing, we was joking, we was hanging out, we was learning about each other. We went out, we did all of our tasks together as a team. We ate breakfast and lunch as a team. We were a cohesive team. And we were successful. We did a lot of great things. And I don't know, probably about 6 to 7 months later, we ended up getting a new leader, the next level up from where I was at the time. And this person really came in and changed things around, shifted things around, moved people around, brought some different people in, and really just kind of shook up the culture and the dynamic of the teams that we had built in place at that time. And it's one of those things to where he started putting people against people, teams against teams, not necessarily in a positive way, but in a really negative way. This person started taking on favorites and was just rewarding favorite people that this person liked, and started really treating the good people like absolute garbage. And that created a culture within that particular team that nobody wanted to be a part of. Now, don't get me wrong, the people that were a part of that guy's inner circle, yeah, they were living large. They really was doing good. But the other people, the junior leaders, the mid-level leaders, because here's what this person did. This person took the junior people, the subordinates, and kind of reversed them to where they were really kind of in charge, where they were kind of leading the way. And although he might have been developing them, he really went about it the wrong way, because he was really treating the actual leaders like garbage. And it was one of those things to where it created a culture to where we didn't want to be there. Those junior leaders directly up under him, we were struggling. We was trying to make ends meet. We started negatively counseling our people. We started performing at a different level. We started trying to attack one another. And then it was one of those things to where ultimately us in the middle, we just kind of banded together. It's like, you know what? This is not going to happen. We're going to have to make a change. We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to do that. And we had to ultimately figure out a way in which we could kind of maneuver this particular leader that got put into position that was toxic. And it was one of those things that it really created a bad organizational culture at that level. Same thing. I've seen it even at higher levels to where, you get specific leaders in increased positions of authority and responsibility, and it's really all about them. It's like me, 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 and me. I'm the one in charge. I'm the leader. Everybody listens to me. And really never counsels anybody, really never develops anybody, really never supports anybody. It's like, it's all about me. What can you do for me kind of a person? And I've experienced that as well too. But I've also been a part of teams to where it's like, man, we all love each other. We're hanging out, we're making things happen. We're supporting one another. And it's those teams like there that I will just never forget. It's that culture of those types of teams that I will just absolutely never ever forget. And man, it even to this day, 20 years later, I'm still in contact with my peers, people that we were all at the same level at that particular time leading this organization. And man, we talk about the good times, we talk about good people, we talk about certain specific memories, and that's where you know that you have a really solid organizational culture, is when even 17 years later, 20 years later, you can still talk about that stuff. That's where you really have something special right there. And I have one particular person and one particular organization throughout my career that we just can't let it go. It was such a memorable moment for both of us that we call each other every now and again. Hey man, how you doing? Do you remember this time? Oh man, that was such a great time. And we kind of remember that, and we reminisce in that. That's organizational culture. That's a positive organizational culture right there. And man, I really just wish that every company was kind of like that. I wish that there was an organizational culture that was out there that supported the people, developed the people, made it memorable for the people, that even 20 years later, you can look back and say, man, I remember that guy. I remember that lady. I remember that team. I remember that company. I remember this moment. I always tell everybody, it's those moments that become memories that last forever. And I was fortunately, able to be in some organizations that we created those moments that became memories that last forever, given the example that I just gave you right here. But how exactly do you create organizational culture? You create organizational culture through the people. You have to have solid people in place in order to develop that organizational culture that, makes people want to be there. And I truly believe it comes down to a couple of things. One, I believe it comes down to, ultimately it comes down to leadership. Ultimately, that's exactly where it comes down to. It comes down to absolute leadership. Leadership being on the ground, knowing exactly what's going on in the ground, and leadership being at that 35,000 foot level, knowing what's going on here, there, everywhere, to where that senior leader can provide opportunities and guidance, counsel, if you will. And man, it really kind of takes a different dynamic of leadership in order to create that organizational culture that is driven towards success. But how do you do that? So let's dive into that real quick. I believe in developmental counseling. I truly believe in developmental counseling. I truly believe that developmental counseling does not happen at the corporate level. It does not happen, across the private sectors. It does not happen properly even within the military. It's one of those things to where developmental counseling must happen. You must develop your subordinates. You must develop your junior leaders. You must develop even your senior leaders. You must develop. And I'll give a story here about that here in a minute. I truly believe in organizational counseling, developmental counseling, if you will. I call it developmental counseling. And here's how you do that. You really kind of figure out, you can do it weekly, you can do it daily, you can do it weekly, you can do it monthly. Some organizations, and I've been in a corporate environment to where we did that counseling or, employee write-ups or whatever it's called once a year. That's not enough. You're not developing anybody. You're not creating a culture by just counseling someone once a year. And then at the end of that, you're turning it back on the person to where the person has to counsel themselves. That's not leadership development. That's not subordinate development. That does not create that culture. That creates I'm doing your job why are you even in a leadership position kind of culture, so to speak. And I've been a part of that. I've written several things for myself just because my next level up leader was absolute garbage. And it's one of those things to where I truly believe in developmental counseling. And here's how you do that. What you do is you sit down with the person either daily, weekly, monthly, annually, all the above, preferably. And I actually used to do that. Yes, I used to counsel people daily. Every single day at the end of the day, I would sit down with the people that was on my team, and we would have what I call a tailgate counseling session. We would sit down at the tailgate and we would counsel each other. I had this piece of paper with about 4 things that I would write. I would take notes. It was like, hey, today in section number 1, here's what we did. Here's an opportunity. Here's what needs improvement. Here's what you did right. Here's what needs improvement. And here's what I believe you can modify, tweak, or change and continue taking action within section number 1. Section number 2 is this subject area. So it was like, uniform dress and attire was one. It was like actions. I can't remember, like tasks, how well you did within, your tasks and missions, goals, things that you had for the day. Training and education. And then I had miscellaneous opportunities that was on there. So it was always one of those things to where I covered down on 4. Those were the important areas within that time. And it could work differently for you. So whatever the important areas for you as a leader, that's what you develop. That's what you counsel. That's what you sit down with that person each and every day, or that group of people, and you go over those things. If it's 2 things, it's 2 things. If it's 8 things, it's 8 things. Great. Whatever works for you. You want to develop people in those very specific areas. You're developing them. You're bringing attention to what it is that they're doing right and things that they need improvement and those opportunities in which to grow within those areas. That's the reason why it's developmental counseling. You're developing people. But if you never have those conversations, you never highlight those things, you never annotate them, you never write them down, you never present them to the person or even discuss it with the person, that person will not develop. They won't even think about those things. And that's where you as the leader come into play, and you're developing that person. You're creating that culture of 2-way communication. You're creating that culture of you take an action, I evaluate the action, I tell you what you did right, what you need to improve on, and you're growing. You're able to fill my shoes if I have to go somewhere. And I know that you can step in and take charge because I've built that culture within that team. I know who the leaders are. I know what the capabilities are. I know what the knowledge, skills, and experience are. That's how you grow leaders. That's how you develop a team. That's how you create that organizational culture to where if the leaders were to go away, who's in charge? If the leaders go away, who has the knowledge, skills, and experience to step up and do the things that needs to happen every day within the organization to where the organization can continue to be successful? Those are things that you need to think about when you're developing an organizational culture. And once again, it starts with that developmental counseling. Now, here's a fun part. Here's kind of a fun thing. What I used to do is I would actually reverse the roles. I would say, okay, I'm the subordinate. You're now the senior. I want you to counsel me. That right there was phenomenal. When I started doing that right there, that allowed me to understand how I was performing and what it was that I was doing from my subordinate's perspective. Because look, communication is a 2-way street. And if you never allow that 2-way street to happen or to flow, man, you're never going to be able to build, grow, or scale your team. You're never going to be able to develop or create those future leaders. You're not going to be able to create that organizational culture that's going to make people want to succeed, want to be a leader, want to go off and do great things. Now, I enjoyed that. I truly did. I truly enjoyed that. I truly enjoyed getting that feedback, that understanding, that what is your perspective? Like, hey, boss, here's what I think. This is how you're performing. This is what you're doing. This is what I think that you need to improve upon. That was great. That gave me feedback. Now I can take from that feedback and I can go do other things. I can change. I can modify, tweak, or change some things that I want to do. And what that is that develops junior leaders, and it's iron sharpening iron. I've never been afraid to listen and learn from people that I've been in charge of. And you get some bosses, some supervisors, some managers, and I don't want to say leaders, but you get people that are out there, they don't want to listen. They truly don't want to listen. They're like, I'm in charge. You'll do exactly what I say, and that's that. Here's the left and right limit. It's very rigid, and don't think you're going to cross those lines. I've seen those types of leaders, and those are the leaders that absolutely destroy teams and the organizational culture. So developmental counseling, it's a must. It has to happen. Now, here's the next thing. The next thing is that you reward people in public, and that's one of the things that I don't see a lot of organizations doing. And if you really want to create a solid organizational culture, you reward people in public. Now, I don't mean generically like, oh, hey, today, we're going to give out the Who Showed Up on Time award. I've been a part of organizations that did crap like that. Giving people awards just for the sake of giving them an award. At the end of that, you lose the value of what that award means. And then nobody's going to try hard. It's like, oh, this is not serious. I don't want to get that award. And I've been a part of organizations that did that. It's like we had somebody walk out and say, hey, during this training exercise, I'm going to give away 15 of this and 10 of that and 5 of that. And the question is it going to be you and who's going to get it? He would walk up and just give out awards like candy. Here's your award. See me after this training exercise and I'll give you the documentation for that award so it's official. It was like that. It was one of those things to where he wouldn't do that publicly in front of everybody. It would just be like on an individual basis, like here's your award. And it'd be like a group of 2 or 3 people that got that award. So you must reward people publicly. Now, there's many ways in which you can do that. Yep, an attaboy or a good job, it just doesn't do the trick anymore these days. It really doesn't. Like you tell me attaboy or good job, and then, yeah, whatever, thank you. Bye. That's exactly how I'm going to take that. But maybe there's something that's there that you can do to reward someone in public that would actually mean something. Giving people a day off publicly. That right there might be valuable to people. Giving people a bonus or on-the-spot bonus. I remember getting an on-the-spot bonus one time of like $100. And even though it was $100, it was just like, gosh, it was $100 I didn't have in my pocket before. And I got that on-the-spot bonus for doing a great job. It's like, here's an on-the-spot bonus, $100. And that was done in front of everybody on the team. It was like, man, like I felt special at that time. Like I'm going to take that $100 and I'm going to go celebrate. I'm going to have a victory day with that $100. I've seen things like that. I've seen awards to where award certificates were giving for performance. It's like this person performed really well. Here's a certificate in front, of a certificate of appreciation. Sometimes it's those moments where you reward people in public that makes them feel special around their peers. It makes them feel like they did a great job. It makes that person feel like, you know what, I mean something and I want to continue that performance level. At the opposite end of that, if you just reward everybody, like I said before, it really kind of lowers the bar on performance. And it's like, oh, well, gosh, if you're going to get a reward just for being on time today, then who cares? I'm going to be late. If you're going to get a reward for just, doing whatever, something simple, insert something simple there, it lowers the value of that reward. It lowers the value of the performance, and it makes people not want to perform. And it creates an organizational performance of, I don't like you because you got that, or I don't like you because you're special. I don't like you because you're getting favored. Now it creates that animosity within the organization, and it creates a culture to where as a leader, you will literally struggle to try to bring that back to some type of balance. You really will. So those are just a couple of things that I wanted to talk about here within this video about what organizational culture is, what it means to me, and a couple of great ways in which you can develop organizational culture within your organization. And hopefully that's valuable to you. And if you want to learn some more tips, tools, techniques about leadership, just head on over to my website, which is terrywadethompson.com. I'll have the link in the description below. I got a free book for you, and it's called Leadership Solved. And when you get the book Leadership Solved, you're going to learn a few things. And within that book right there, I have an area or a section where I talk about the 5 rights. And if you want to achieve success within this life, within this business, you must adhere to those 5 rights. So go grab that book and discover what those 5 rights are. And it's over on my website, terrywadethompson.com. So get on over there, get that free book, the audio book. There's a little order bump for the audio book. But man, I just want to say thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.